So the JBL Flip line of speakers is pretty much the default for anyone that wants an outdoor Bluetooth speaker. It's either that or something like the UE Boom, and if you walk into your local electronics store, chances are you're walking out with one of those. Now, the Flip line has always been relatively affordable at around $99 even when they get updated, and now there's the JBL Flip 5, so how is it? Let's find out. Now, if you've owned a Flip series speaker in the past, and this is going to look very familiar to you, specifically if you've owned the JBL Flip 4, because the Flip 5 is basically the same design. It's still cylindrical and it still has exposed passive bass radiators on either end, which, by the way, looks pretty freaking cool when it's wet and playing music. The fabric is still IPX7 rated, so it's completely waterproof for up to 30 minutes in 3 feet of water. Unfortunately, the JBL Flip 5 won't float, so unlike the UE Wonder Boom, which floats if you drop it in water, try not to drop this in a lake or the pool, because it's just going to sink to the bottom. The fabric is nice and grippy even when it's wet, and while I obviously haven't been able to go poolside or to the beach because of quarantine, I will say that I've been using this as my shower speaker, and when it's wet, I have no problem picking it up and using it. The playback buttons are built into the fabric, and it's super cool and useful. The buttons are very clicky and tactile. My only issue with them is that I wish they were painted a different color or maybe have the same LED lights that you find on the power button and the Bluetooth button. It would just help with low light visibility so you're not holding the speaker up to your face in order to see the buttons when it's dark out. Speaking of holding the JBL Flip 5 up to your face, this doesn't have a microphone, so if you tend to answer phone calls on your Bluetooth speaker because you can't reach your phone in time, that's something to keep in mind. Now the Flip 5 does have this shoestring loop so you can hang it from places, and I haven't had any issues using it to hang it from doorknobs or my shower head, but I will say that if you're going to be taking this on like a multi-day hike, I would recommend replacing that string with some paracord just because it's cheap and a lot more useful in an emergency situation. Speaking of bringing this with you on hikes, it's pretty lightweight at only 540 grams. Plus, because of the cylindrical shape, it's pretty portable and convenient. This easily fits into any regular cup holder, and I had no problem putting this into the water bottle holder of my backpack. Now let's move on to the connection strength, which is fine to average. I didn't have any consistent skips or stutters with the Flip 5, but they did happen, and it was nothing that powering the speaker on and off couldn't fix, but still annoying. Even more annoying is that there's no high quality Bluetooth codecs here, so if you were looking to take advantage of aptX or LDAC for higher quality music, you're out of luck. This isn't the speaker for you. On top of that, the JBL Flip 5 doesn't have Bluetooth 5. It's still rocking Bluetooth 4.2, just like the Flip 4 before it. So that said, there is one practical and noticeable issue with the lack of Bluetooth codecs here, and that's YouTube videos. If you plan on watching YouTube videos or any kind of videos really, there's gonna be a huge audio-visual lag between what the person is saying and what you're hearing. When someone is speaking, their lips just won't match up at all with what you're hearing. Kinda like this. JBL also removed the 3.5mm input from the speaker, so there's really no getting around this problem. Then there's the Party Boost mode button, or as I like to think of it, a complete waste of space. Now, to clarify, this is the button that you press if you want to pair a second JBL Flip speaker to it so that you can have music playing simultaneously. Now, I'm not a huge party person, but the few that I've gone to didn't have more than one JBL Flip speaker playing music. But I guess if you and your friend want to get a speaker and pair them up together, you can. So at least the option's there. So when it comes to battery life, JBL claims 12 hours of constant playback, which is the same as the JBL Flip 4 before it. Unfortunately, I didn't get that in our testing. I got 9 hours and 27 minutes. Now keep in mind, this was in my air-conditioned room playing at a constant output of 75 decibels. If you're blasting this under the hot sun at the beach, I doubt it's gonna last that long. Now it does charge with USB-C, which is good considering that the Flip 4 was still using micro USB. Now this is a Bluetooth speaker, so we should probably talk about how it sounds. Our frequency response graph is just a rough idea of what you're gonna hear, since you'll likely be using this speaker at the park or at the beach and not in an anechoic chamber or something. But for a speaker at this price point, it isn't bad. Now there is a huge drop off under about 60 Hertz, so the sub bass in some of your favorite songs just isn't gonna be there, though the larger drivers inside the speaker do help provide some extra emphasis to bass notes at around 100 Hertz. Now keep in mind, JBL's wireless speaker tend to follow a signature sound that's roughly similar to the Harman target curve. Essentially, bass notes from middle C and lowers see a bump from about 2 to 8 decibels. Mids are evenly emphasized, and the highs are gently attenuated. The Flip 5 doesn't stray from this trend, and most people will be happy with the way it sounds just right out the box. Now the bass response definitely sounds like it was given a bit more emphasis this time around than the JBL Flip 4, but it still isn't the greatest thing you've ever heard. The difference is subtle, and if you're hanging out in the yard or at the beach, chances are you're streaming off of a low-ish quality service like Spotify or Apple Music anyway. Still, it was a welcome addition in the song The Less I Know The Better by Tame Impala, where the groovy bass line is the main part of the song in my opinion. It sounded good enough to hear, but wasn't able to get super low due to that hard drop off at around 60 Hz. Now, as the mids are less emphasized against the lower frequency notes, sometimes they can be tougher to hear in music with a super strong bass line. This isn't a huge deal when listening to podcasts since there wasn't a lot going on besides voices, but in songs with a lot going on like Ghost Under Rocks by Rah Rah Riot, I found that some instrumentation was lacking in clarity as things like guitars and strings were battling for volume with the vocals throughout the chorus. Highs were also pretty quiet and you may find yourself boosting the levels from time to time. Okay, so let's answer the question, should you buy the JBL Flip 5? I think if you want a Bluetooth speaker to bring with you to the beach, you definitely should. This is clearly one of the top choices for an affordable Bluetooth speaker that you can just throw in your bag and walk out the door with, even if it isn't that much of a difference from the JBL Flip 4 before it. Now, if you can find a Flip 4 at a decent price on sale or something, I would suggest just going and picking up that because you're not really missing much in terms of differences from the JBL Flip 5. But for only $100, the Flip 5 makes a pretty good case for itself. It's still waterproof, you can still hang it from places, it has a solid Bluetooth connection, and it's just as fun and portable as the previous versions. Now, there are some other great alternatives like the Anker Soundcore Flare or the UE Wonder Boom, but none of them are 100% hands down better than the Flip 5, so this is definitely in the conversation. If you're looking for a waterproof Bluetooth speaker for the summer, you should definitely check this out. And that should pretty much do it for this one. Thanks for watching. If you want to know more about the Flip 5 or any of the other products we review, make sure to check out SoundGuys.com. While you're here, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. I'm Adam Molina. Happy listening.